Hi, Cynthia. It's Andrew Staton, World of Martial Arts TV. And of course, you are the one and only, truly, Queen of Kung Fu, Cynthia Rothrock. So, straight in, we all know you're a fantastic martial artist, but how did you get involved in the movie business? When did somebody introduce you and say, no, oh, Cynthia, we want you in the movies? And how did you feel at that time?
Yeah, well, during that time, I was on the West Coast demonstration team headed by Ernie Reyes Snr. And everybody knew that, the best of the best was on this team. And there was a Hong Kong company, it was Yuen Seasonal Films. They were coming to LA and they were holding a big audition. They were looking for the next Bruce Lee. So they called Ernie and they said, hey, can you bring your guys down and audition because this is going to be big? And Ernie said, well, what about the girls? And they went, oh, yeah, you can bring the girls, but they're really looking for a guy. So we all went down to LA and they had a big audition at Heel Cho Studio. And Corey Yuen was the casting director, big Hong Kong famous director. And I did some forms, self-defense, fighting, and some weapons. And he said, I want to go with the girls. So he signed me up to do the movie. And up until then, I really didn't have any aspirations to be in film. I mean, I love film. I was just used to going to Chinatown with my Eagle Claw instructor, Sean Leong, and I would watch Jackie Chan movies and I would go home and practice those moves. And he was like my idol. And I thought I would just do one movie. I thought, oh, wow, this is just like a fluke, an adventure. I'll be in a movie. And I didn't really know that it was going to go into a full-time career. And it was a great timing because my goal was to be undefeated for 5 years in form competition. And the year I did the first movie, which was Yes, Madam, 1985, was the last year I had my goal to be #1. And I made that. So I retired from competition. I was competing and doing the movie at the same time, flying back and forth from Hong Kong to the States. And after the movie came out, it was a huge success. And I had a contract then with Golden Harvest to do more movies.
With the success of a certain young Chinese lady, what was it like working with Michelle Yeoh?
Oh, it was great. I mean, she was one of the few people that spoke English, so on the set. So we became really good friends, and we were a big support team to each other. This was like her third film in Hong Kong, and it was like my first film. So I really didn't know what to expect, what to do. And that movie we did, Yes, Madam, was so hard. I mean, we took so much of a beating. We were bruised. We did these incredible, crazy stunts. And we were just a big support to each other, egging each other on like, yes, you could do this, you could do this. And that movie took almost 8 months to shoot. So we had a great time and we were a big comfort support team to each other.
Out of I think it's about 7 movies you did in Hong Kong in that spate of time. Which one is your favourite? Which one would you say you really enjoy doing? And I know the amount of punishment that you take when you're doing those kind of movies. I mean, I've spoken to an awful lot of martial arts movie guys, and they say it's arduous because you're repeating. Which I'm going to ask you another question soon. But which one did you feel that as though you got the best? You felt most comfortable with?
I liked Lady Reporter, which was also, I think, called Blonde Fury. And the reason for that is because the fight scenes in it are just so incredible. I mean, even now, like 30 years later or so, I look at that movie and those fight scenes still hold up and are better than a lot of the fight scenes that you see modern day, even that they have CGIs, like going on and all that. And I think that has to be my favorite. Just because the fight scenes are like crazy incredible in that movie.
We're talking about Golden Harvest, which is the Golden Harvest years and stuff like that. And a lot of the great stuff is now coming out on Blu-ray, which is why we're talking to you. Can you sort of like tell us, what was your meeting like? Did you have a meeting with Raymond Chow ever? Or did you ever meet any of the others, sort of like, any of the other Golden Harvest people?
Yeah, I did meet him. He didn't come around on sets too much. I mean, actually, I think his health wasn't so good at that time. So I met him. I met his daughter, Roberta. She was actually one of the producers on the show. So, I got to be pretty good friends with her. I met a lot of the Golden Harvest actors. during that. But you know, I never met them to sign the deal. It was all like, we want her, and let's just go for it. So it's been a blessing. It feels like, sometimes you're on this earth and you're doing what God has planned for your life, and this is totally what I should be doing 100%, and everything just fell into place, because not only is it to do the movie, but to be an inspiration for other people to do martial arts, or to have a positive outlook on life and not to be afraid of challenges. So I think that's all part of what my purpose here on earth is.
So now let's get to the nitty gritty, and I'm really taking you step by step, really. You've done the 7 movies or so in Hong Kong. When did we approached? Because this was a big launch, and I don't know if Jackie had done Battle Creek Brawl before that, but you came in and you were bringing your kind of Hong Kong action to the West, really. The big, it was your kind of signature action that everybody was absolutely craving for, and it brought it to the big screen. So at what point and how were you introduced to China O'Brien, and who did you meet to sort of like say, look, Cynthia, this is going to be a big launch?
Yeah, I'm not sure who I was contacted by from Golden Harvest, but it was one of Raymond Chow's representatives. It might have been Roberta, and they wanted to get into the Western market. So they said, "How would you feel?" I did for my 3 pictures with Golden Harvest. I did Righting Wrongs with Yuen Bu, and then they said, "How would you like to go to America and shoot 2 pictures? That would be your second and third picture with Golden Harvest, in Utah, and it will be an English movie." And I was so excited. I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, yeah." So we went off, and I think we shot that in 1988, and did the 2 China O'Briens simultaneously, actually.
The thing with China O'Brien is that it's sort of like got the West with you doing the Hong Kong action. You basically, you're there. What was it like working with Robert Klaus, who had done and sort of like directed Enter the Dragon? How did you get on with him with your kind of action? Did he understand it, or was it difficult?
He understood it, but I kind of look at China O'Brien as a bit of Hong Kong choreography and a bit of American. It wasn't like a full-blown Hong Kong movie. We shot these movies in 6 weeks, just the 2 of them all together. And when you're shooting a Hong Kong movie, like the shortest time I ever did one was 5.5 months, right? So it's a much longer period. And we knew Robert Klaus from for doing the Bruce Lee movies, and he was like an icon for us. So we were like all so excited and nervous. But he had a different attitude about the filming. They brought in 2 stunt people from Hong Kong, and that's all we had. And they were doing the choreography. And Robert Klaus also brought in, I believe, Nigel Binns to do the choreography as well. So Nigel had an American flair, like that was doing more what Westerners are used to seeing film, and our Hong Kong people were doing what we had in Hong Kong. I am a big fan of Hong Kong film fighting. Even today, that's still my favorite. And Robert kind of 50-50 was going with that, and I remember him saying, I did Bruce Lee, and this is how Bruce Lee shoots, and we were all thinking, no, that's not how Bruce Lee shoots, because we saw the movie and it's like Hong Kong filming. But he kind of didn't like to go in so much for close-ups, like close-up of the foot hitting the face, or the expressions. He kind of wanted to do it all in a long shot, just where you're just doing the fights all at one time. And I wasn't a big fan of that, because I came up from doing the Hong Kong films, and I like that. So I think that's why when you see China O'Brien, they both Robert and Golden Harvest kind of came to a thing saying, okay, we'll do half and half like this, put in the Western and put in the Hong Kong. So, that's kind of how that worked out for choreography.
How did Richard Norton get invited on? Because you'd done that you'd been with him in Shanghai Express. So was that a sort of like you mentioned it, or was that a foregone conclusion?
I think, back in that era of doing movies in Hong Kong, if you were a success and you did well, they would use you quite a bit. And since Richard and I worked really well in Shanghai Express, Millionaires Express, whatever name, it came out in so many different names that, Golden Harvest said, yeah, we want to use him in the China O'Briens. And it was great because we've already developed a very good friendship, from working on Millionaires Express.
And of course, that was the introduction to Keith Cook. And who brought Keith Cook in, or was he just brought in out of nowhere, or where did Keith Cook fit into the thing? Because it's his introduction film, just about, is China O'Brien.
Yeah, we talked about the cast and also talked about it with Yuen Kwai. Yuen Kwai actually was involved in also putting the parts together, and Keith and I competed together for probably almost all that time I was competing. So we were really good friends, and he was a phenomenal martial artist. So we all agreed 100%, like, yes, we need to have Keith in this.
So when you're going through the movie, there is, I know, several takes. Can you explain to us what it must have been like? Because I have watched it, just to sort of brief myself, you doing one of the takes in a sort of like a gymnasium. It takes about 7, 8, 9 times, and you're doing the same thing over again. How do you feel? How do you cope with that kind of, making sure you've got the same face, get the same action? Tell us how you feel. How do you approach something like that?
It's the Hong Kong style, like Jackie Chan, like he'll do about 50 takes of the same scene. And same thing when I was shooting in Hong Kong. Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't do 7 or 8 takes. We do about 50 takes, And I think, it's not so much you're trying to identically do the same facial expressions or the moves. You just try to do it better and better and better. And it's just their way of filming. We didn't do like when you do 7 or 8 takes in China O'Brien, that was like easy. That's an easy day for me, because we were on a very short schedule, so we couldn't take a long time filming those fight scenes. But that was like, oh, I'm on vacation doing this film here compared to the Chinese films that I was doing.
On location, you did. You were in. Where were you in Utah doing the films?
Yeah, we shot it in Park City.
Yeah, and were you? Was both films filmed there?
Yeah, we shot them at the same time. So it was. But it was supposed to shoot China O'Brien 1, and then we were supposed to shoot China O'Brien 2 right after, right, on a continuous. I think it was like a 6 week time. And the funny thing about this film is it was really, my first movie into the American market, doing it in the US. And I was still really new at it. And I remember like Robert Klaus would go, we're shooting a scene from China O'Brien 1. And, when you're preparing for a film, you pretty much really know the script. You get your lines down as best you can. And then when you're going to shoot the scene, like they'll give you, let's say, okay, tomorrow, these are the scenes we're going to be doing. So that night you're really studying and preparing for the next day. Well, Robert Klaus would go, oh, well, here we're in the sheriff's office. Let's just shoot the scenes from China O'Brien 2 while we're at it. And we're like, oh my gosh, we didn't even look at 2 yet. We're just preparing for 1. And we didn't know our lines. And he'd go, oh, that's okay. And he'd line read it. And, and you're like, you don't have time to prepare for it. And especially, we're such novices at acting that, while the person's talking, you're thinking, what's my line? What's my line? Instead of really being comfortable with the role. So that was a weird experience that we never knew if we were shooting 1 or 2. And even now when the movies come out, to me, it's almost like it was like one big long movie because we were shooting it. We never knew, is this 1 or 2 or whatever? I don't know. Just do the scene.
Did you to a certain extent, did you really enjoy doing China O'Brien in comparison with the Chinese movies, or was it a little bit like, I'm really missing the Chinese movie, a way of doing things?
No, I really enjoyed it. To me, it was a treat to be able to act with people speaking English, because then I knew what they were saying. I knew what the script was. You know, when we were shooting in Hong Kong, rarely my other person would speak in English, and we never had a script. So kind of like when I saw the movie, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what that part was about. Like we didn't really get too much information on the story. I remember when I was shooting Magic Crystal, Wong Jing, the director, said, look up at the ceiling. And I said, why should I look at the ceiling? And he goes, just look up at the ceiling. So I'm looking up and there's holes in the ceiling and I'm like counting the holes and whatever. The movie comes out, we're getting invaded by aliens and I'm looking at the aliens. I was like, that would have been a very important note you could have gave me and saying why I'm looking up at the ceiling. So it was awesome for me. I enjoyed that aspect of shooting, that, you know, I understood everything that was going on.
Being a Hong Kong actress, a martial arts actress, we well know that most of the time you don't have a stunt person to stand in for you. So basically, a lot of the punishment you do actually take yourself. How do you deal with that? And have you had any really bad accidents? And was there any accidents in China O'Brien?
Oh yeah, I've had many accidents in Hong Kong. It got to the point after I did Righting Wrongs. You know, they're like, okay, well now we're going to do this movie and this movie, and we want the stunts bigger. And I actually thought, oh my gosh, they're going to kill me, because I wasn't a stunt person. I was just a martial artist. I wasn't used to jumping off a 3-story foot building with a fake baby in my hand and an explosion going on behind me. I mean, you know, we don't learn that in martial arts schools, right? So it was very dangerous, and I did get hurt on every film in Hong Kong, and I did get hurt on China O'Brien, even though the action wasn't as extreme as you would be in a Hong Kong movie. But I remember that it was a very small budget picture, and they didn't have stunt guys, so they just got someone that was an extra and said, hey, I want you to do this fight scene with Cynthia. And they didn't know. And it was a move where I grab his lapels and I pull him into me. Well, you know, when you're a stunt person, you know how to react to this. So if I pull you in, you're going to go in. Well, this guy resisted. I pulled him in and he pulled that way and broke my finger. So if you're looking at, I think it's China O'Brien 1, there's one scene where I'm on stage and I do like very nice Hong Kong action, you know, with the microphone and the wire. And you can see in some of the shots, my finger is like this because I had a cast on it. I had to put a cast on it. Yeah, it was a minor accident. Not that I felt like on China O'Brien I was gonna get really seriously hurt, but it was just a little injury. But I think on Righting Wrongs and Yes, Madam, and later Reporter, yeah, I had some serious bruises. I thought my nose got broke almost one time, got choked with the chain. When I did the jump from the building with the explosion, that was very hairy. And I didn't feel good that night. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor said to me, well, you jumbled your internal organs. And I went, what? And he said, you jumbled your internal organs. I was like, what does that mean? I jumbled my internal organs. And he's like, okay, just go home. And in Yes, Madam, Dick Way hit me in the jaw so hard with a kick that my ears started bleeding. And I thought, oh, I saw movies where people bleed from the ears, they're going to die. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, right? And it was the closest I've ever been to getting passed out. I remember like going back and like seeing stars. And then they took me to the doctor, and the doctor looked in my ear and he said, well, he split your internal ear open, but it's so deep, there's nothing we could do about it. So go back to the set and continue shooting. And then I had to continue that scene with Dick Way, right? And I was like, oh my God, you know, he hit me. We got to do that scene. And that's when I learned, Yuen Kwai said, no, well, we got about 50 takes of that, right? And I was like, you could have stopped at 3, right? But I remember then when I was fighting at Dick Way, continuing, I would go like this and block my ear because I kept thinking he was going to hit me again in the face, you know, and Yuen Kwai say, stop, don't cover your ear.
And you still like doing this job, do you? I see. Okay. Yeah. Do you
that
actually?
kind of tells you what my personality and my mind frame. Crazy.
Okay. Do you remember the press details that came out for China O'Brien? Do you ever remember what they actually said about you? How they built you up so big? Do you remember that?
I remember some of it. I remember like an ad that was really cool. I don't remember. I think it was like something like she's as tough as Van Damme, you know, something they compared me to Chuck Norris and said she has better hair than Steven Seagal. I remember there was something like that that was really, really funny. But
better than that, I still have the cutting that was from the Daily Mirror.
yeah.
The Queen of Kung Fu, she will take over from Bruce Lee. That's what the heading says.
Oh, yeah.
It's got you in those sort of like slack pants and a nice top, and you're doing this straight up kick. I've still got the cutting, so it was big thing. Daily Mirror is a big paper over here, and they really put you on the top of the list there. So everybody knew, you know, that you were going to be somebody to watch out for. So that was
Because,
great.
you know, back then it was so unusual for a Caucasian woman to be fighting and be a lead in a movie. I mean, even after I did the China O'Brien, it took a while, you know, then I was doing some more American movies and they're like, okay, you're the partner that helps the guy, but you know, the guy got to come in and save the day, you know, until I did, I think, Lady Dragon and Sworn to, well, no, Lady Dragon was an Indonesian production, but Sworn to Justice, you know, that even at that time, it was very hard for a woman to be a star in an action movie. And it was kind of good because I felt like, you know, throughout my whole life, I've been opening doors, especially for women, you know, being the first woman on the cover of Karate Illustrated magazine, you know, being like one of the first Caucasian women to star in a big action picture, you know, it's a long road. It's a challenging road for women, but you know, I feel very honored that, you know, I've opened a lot of doors for, you know, women in the film industry.
Especially with China O'Brien, and I'm really pleased that it's coming out on Blu-ray. But with it, what was you say in China O'Brien your most memorable? You've told us some of the situations where you got hurt. Which was the most memorable one that you enjoyed, or you can watch it and go, yeah, I enjoyed that in China O'Brien.
Oh, well, I don't know. There's so many. There's so many, from scary, you know, when Keith Cook got hurt and hurt his arm, to funny things like, you know, like Fred Weintraub was the producer and he would just go, oh, we're going to shoot this scene. And nobody even knew what it was, but it was like, I'm in the parade to be China O'Brien for sheriff, right? And
Yeah.
he didn't get any permissions for that. He said, let's just get a car and we'll put China O'Brien for sheriff and Cynthia will be like this waving to people. And they just stuck me in the parade without telling anybody. So here I am in the parade, you know, waving to people and looking like, what? China O'Brien for sheriff? And then they were doing a live cast of it. And we heard the clip, the guys going, and next we have China O'Brien for sheriff. You know, I mean, nobody knew what to expect. And that's kind of how Fred Weintraub, you know, produced things. So, you know, little things like that, it makes me laugh. And like the one scene where it's a big party, that was just our lunch day, you know, where the cast and crew were having lunch. And I remember,
Yeah.
you know, it's a funny story that Richard Norton, we were, you know, on the buffet getting food, and Richard takes 3 meatballs, and Fred Weintraub said, Richard, you took 3 meatballs. And he goes, yeah, I know. He goes, well, put one back. If everybody takes 3 meatballs, there won't be enough for everybody to eat.
Oh wow! Because you were with Robert Klaus and Fred Rand. Did they ever mention much about Bruce Lee? Did they say much about him, or did they sort of like had they moved on?
No, no, especially Robert Klaus. Robert Klaus definitely was always talking about Bruce Lee.
Yeah, and what did you get from them about him? Much, little? Was he good, bad, indifferent? Did he tell you anything that you know you had to live up to, kind of thing? You know, I
Well,
don't
I
know.
think no, he never said like you have to look up. He would go, well, Bruce Lee would do it this way, or Bruce Lee would do it that way. You know, he would say that a lot, you know, and he would say that he really created the scenes for Bruce Lee to do, that he was basically the influence to get Bruce Lee to do this. But we knew from other, I've never met Bruce Lee, but from the Hong Kong people, that Bruce Lee was always in charge of what he did. He did not listen to anybody. He was the master. You shoot this, shoot this way, you know. And Robert Close is like, yeah, I did that. We're all like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So let's move on a little bit further now. Thank you for all that bit, but now we want to talk about you and your adventures now. Black Creek, we want to give it a bit of a push, and we hope we can come back to you when it gets a proper launch. I see you've got Keith Cook back in there. Can you tell us a little bit about it and how far you're with it at the moment?
Yeah, one of my dreams is always to do my own movie. Because I just wanted to be in control of things. I wanted to cast who I wanted. I wanted to be the character I wanted to be. I wanted to have the look I wanted. I wanted to make sure the fights were good, the lighting was good. And then one day, my partner said, what kind of movie do you want to do? I said, a Western. They looked at me and they said, a Western? I said, yeah, I always like Westerns, and you don't see that many female gunslingers doing an action martial art movie. So I wanted to combine something unique, martial arts with Western. And one of the things I wanted to do is pick my cast, who I want, basically my friends that are in the business, and Keith Cook was definitely someone. Richard Norton is in it. I have Benny the Jet Urquidez, Keith Vitale, Marcus Taylor, a lot of masters that you would see, and Don Wilson, so it was a dream for me to be able to use these people. But not only, I didn't want it to be like any small independent martial art movie. I wanted to have a great story and a great look. I've worked so hard on this, and we shot it in Arizona in Mescal Ranch, which is where Tombstone was shot, The Quick and the Dead, Outlaw Josie Wales. So we shot the whole thing there, and we're finished shooting right now. We're in the editing process. We hope to have the film completely finished by July of this year, and it's looking awesome. And we still people can still be part of it, get some of the incentives for it's blackcreekmovie.com. And also what I've always wanted to do is a comic book. And my friend Marlon Shoup is an amazing illustrator. We've been talking about this for 15 years to do a comic book, and we said, let's do Black Creek graphic novel. So now we're in actually a fundraising campaign too, where people could actually be their likenesses in the comic book. And wow. So we have that, and that's blackcreekgraphicnovel.com, where people could do that. And I'll tell you what, this has been such a blessing for me doing Black Creek, because it was all the money was raised on crowd fundraising. It's the fans. So I feel like it's not my movie, it's the fans' movie and mine. And I tell you, I got so many responses. I've had, like, about the first day of shooting, we had about 150 people on set, cast and crew. We had so many extras, and we had a lot of backers that bought the incentive to be on the set as a featured extra, to have a speaking role, to be in a fight scene. And all the feedback, everybody has just become such a big family. They all got to bond with each other. And I got so many things saying, Cynthia, you have made my lifetime dream come true. And I love that. And the same thing for the comic book. I mean, really, who gets to be in a comic book? And I was just telling someone, I said, I am going to do the best I can. Every single penny is going into the movie. It's not about me making money. It's just me coming out with the best product. And when I was doing the Kickstarter, some of my friends said, hey, don't do it. You're never going to get the money. And they said a certain martial art actor that has 5 million followers didn't do it, right? They only raised like 32,000. Why do you think you would do it? So now I started getting all nervous, right? Going, oh my gosh, this is going to be stressful. And after the first 3 days, we made our first goal. And we have become the second most highest funded action picture in the history of Kickstarter.
Congratulations.
And it's all because of the fans, and I appreciate everyone so much that has been a backer on both of these projects, that they have become very special to me. And it doesn't matter whether it's like a $10 shout out or a big incentive of being in the movie, just that people have supported the project. I know everybody, I have the list, and I'm definitely like a pay it back person. If I can do anything for any of my backers or people, I try to get to know them instead of just, saying, hey, yeah, I collected the money, is that I get to know them and I keep in touch with them. And I've created a Black Creek cast and crew page, where everybody can just chat with each other and become friends. And it's pretty awesome. It's definitely a huge blessing. And now it makes me want to do my own films, because I was like, yeah, I like this scene better than this scene. I have the control of the editing. So
So let's talk it, because of course I was brought up on China O'Brien. I met you back in 1986 at the Geeko Spectacular
Yeah.
with Tim Ward. That's when I first met you. I've met you several times since. But China O'Brien 3, maybe, could be. Would
Well,
you think about it?
for the longest time I wanted to do, well, actually Golden Harvest came up to me and they said, afterwards, we want you to do China O'Brien 3 and 4, right? Which I
Wow.
really wanted to do. And they were offering me way more money, probably more than I make today or ever made. And I really wanted to do it because I love the China O'Brien character. And at that time, I signed a contract with Sylvester Stallone to do a movie called The Executioner. So he put me up with his agent, who was Lou Pitt at ICM, and ICM said, we don't want you doing those movies anymore. You got to just focus on A movies in America. So I don't know. I'm going, but I really want to do China O'Brien, 3 and 4. And they said they wouldn't let me do it. But I'm thinking, well, I'm going to be doing an A-listed movie with Sylvester Stallone. Okay, yeah. I'll listen to what you say. And that movie, unfortunately, never went. But I've always wanted to do China Brown 3. So actually, since I have my own film company right now, my next project that I want to do is Black Creek 2. We already have the first draft of the script, but I would love, I am very much searching who owns the rights that I could get the rights to do China O'Brien 3. And again, have Keith Cook in it, Richard Norton, Pat Adams. And just do a darker, gritty vision, from that. And the thing is that even though that movie is almost 30 years old, is it how many years old? We did it in 88.
We're not mentioning how old it is. Give up.
Almost 40 years old.
No.
Richard, and I are still in great shape. I know we're still in great shape. We look good. We feel, we could do that so much better because our acting has gotten so much better from back in that day, right? That is a dream that I am trying to pursue, is to do China O'Brien 3.
Yeah, well, I wish you the best. And of course, I've got to ask this crazy question, because Christmas always comes round and we have a Christmas channel in England. Santa's Summer House.
Yes.
How did that come about?
I tell you, Christmas, I love Christmas. I am a big Christmas nut. It's like my favorite holiday. And the director of Santa's Summer House sent me the script. And he said, I'd like you to be in this. He goes, I'm having a lot of action stars in it, but they're not doing any action. And his tagline was, even the toughest people love Christmas, right? So I read the part, and I'm supposed to play I think it was Gary Daniels' wife in it, right? Well, I had a conflicting commitment and I couldn't do it. And I said, oh, I'd love to, but I can't. So my daughter's sitting next to me and I'm going to her, I'm going, God, I would love to play Mrs. Claus. And she's laughing at me going, what, are you crazy? I said, no, I just would love to. Well, then, a couple weeks go by and my schedule opened up where I had that time free. So I call the director and I said, oh, I'm free if the part is still available, because I would love to do a Christmas movie. And he said, oh, no, I already cast that. He goes, but you could play Mrs. Claus. And I went, oh my God, that's the part I wanted. And I think, who was it? I try to remember who played.
The guy from Dukes of Hazzard, wasn't he? Was the guy from Dukes of Hazzard?
No.
No?
What was his name that played Mr. Claus? Well, anyway, he was older than I, and he looked, even though maybe age-wise, there's a different in the looks. And I remember the director said,
you had every martial artist in it. Every martial artist didn't do one bit of martial arts in it at all. What a great movie! What a great movie!
And the director said, "Well, what's wrong with Santa having a younger, hotter wife?" And I'm like, "Exactly, right." And what I wanted to do, which he didn't do, because that was really a shoestring budget, I wanted him in the end credits to have all of us do some fight action, And that would have been awesome, just in the end credits, but he didn't do that.
Okay. Cindy, I hope to see you soon. I hope you come back to England soon. We have a lovely time. Doncaster was great this year.
I'll be back again this year. I'll be back.
Oh, you'll be back this year? Well, I shall come down and see you. I shall come down and see you.
Definitely, please do. Yeah, I have, I think from May 1st to May 12th, I'm doing the martial arts show.
St. Clair.
And also I'm doing a tour of seminars throughout the UK again, in
fantastic.
Wales and also Scotland.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.